Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Today, if you have ever thought of entering the print industry, especially with regards to newspapers here in 2023, getting to 2024, maybe that's actually never even crossed your mind, but I want to let you know that maybe that is something that you want to reconsider. Today, we're going to be speaking with the Tattler, a paper down in Florida that's been running for the last 45 ish years, that is run by Mr. Rob Allan. He's going to tell us about why he bought a paper and how the process is going right now. Let's bring in Rob. Hello, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's so great to have you.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Tattler. You know, it's been my life now for the last almost 2 years since I purchased the paper, and it's fun. It's a fun business, fun to talk about.
Which is something that might strike people as a little bit unusual, just because a lot of people are hearing about newspapers folding, about newspapers, ending, and here we have an example of someone actually diving in recently into the paper. So, kind of like tell us your thought process a little bit about what got you actually interested in buying the paper to even get started.
Well, I'm 61, uh, so I'm done a lot of things in my life. I actually started off in publishing, believe it or not, when I was in my early 20s. I owned a company with a couple of high school buddies, and we ran fan clubs for motion picture companies. We actually had the official license to run the Star Trek fan club, the Lucasfilm fan club. We ran the Back to the Future fan club. Um, so that was my early years. I did that all through my 20s. I ended up in sales and did a variety of things there. So the opportunity for the paper, it you know when something like this comes for sale, it's not everybody can afford to purchase it, and I did have competition, but I had known the owner for 20 years, and I had actually been on the board of trustees for our community, so she had reported on me literally, you know, 17, 18 years ago, and so I bought the paper as a kind of a second job. It was going to be not necessarily my main source of income, but something I could do part time. And the only way I was able to do it part time was by actually incorporating my family. And my daughter, her name is Laura. She's 18 years old. She just graduated high school. Um, she actually is a Adobe professional. She had taken digital art throughout high school. She did a variety of classes, and she actually knew how to use the program that the Tattler was already using to publish the newspaper. So it was like, okay, if I can get her in on it, that takes care of that aspect. Um, I was still working a full time job, so I had my son, who was 19 years old, Benjamin. I was teaching him advertising sales. I hate the business aspect of running a newspaper, and I hired my wife to run the business. So suddenly, I now have four mouths to feed. Not that I wasn't feeding them already, but uh, now I've got to pay my daughter a salary, my wife a salary, my son a salary, and myself a salary, especially because now this is my only job. Um, so yeah, buying a newspaper, maybe not the smartest thing in the world, but I've always loved Barefoot Bay. My community is rather unique in Florida. We're the largest manufactured home community in Florida. Uh, the paper's been around since 1978. I believe I was 16 in 1978. Um, so the paper had been around for a long time. I read the paper every single month. Um, I just knew that if I purchased the paper, I would be able to grow. Now,
Mm.
growth for a small newspaper that is limited to the area that I can mail it to. There's not anybody coming in here necessarily building 10,000 more homes, so I
Right.
can't increase the overall distribution of the paper except by finding additional places you can put it out. It's a free newspaper. First of all, it's advertiser supported, and so I felt long term I would be able to increase the number of advertisers, thus increasing the number of pages in the paper, and eventually making it a lot more profitable, and eventually, making it so that somebody else that purchases the paper can, benefit from the extra work that I did. We did a rebranding. Initially, we changed the header, we changed the logo, and we started to promote articles of interest to the public that weren't simply our local government agents providing a press release, and that's kind of how the paper used to feel. You would get a press release from our county commissioner, you'd get a press release from our local chairman of the board, and there would be occasionally news, there'd be occasional opinion pieces by the previous owners, but that really wasn't the focus. And so I took over the paper, did some rebranding, have increased have I increased the readership? I don't know. I mean, I've got people that have told me they love reading the paper. They look forward to getting it every single month. It literally sits on their counter until the next month's paper comes out, because the paper is loaded with relevant information for the month. There's a calendar of all the activities that are going on. There's club news. Our community has 88 separate clubs. Gratefully, not all 88 promote themselves in the newspaper. I'd have to have a 70-page newspaper just for that. But we do post their what they're doing. Do they have a potluck? Are they having a raffle? What activities are they involved in? Because we're a community newspaper. And so when I purchased it, I took that under consideration. First of all, 80% of my content is provided to me by columnists that have been publishing in the paper for a decade. We have a nurses column, we have a veterans council column, and these provide all valuable information to those in our community that are kind of the retirement age. Myself, I get to write opinion pieces and fluff pieces, and I get to talk about our oak trees. And I mean, I've always, it's kind of funny. I started off in the fan club business. I ran fan clubs for motion picture companies. I look at the Tattler as kind of the fan club magazine or newspaper for our community. So I run the fan club, and I want to talk about good things that are going on in our community. I don't want to talk about, like the last issue, we have a situation with our government officials, and here I am, not wanting to be an investigative journalist, but having to write stories that are embarrassing to our community, embarrassing to the trustees that were involved, and that story will continue until there's no story to write, of course. But I'd rather go back to, showing pictures of the pier, with the sun rising, than talk about, individuals in our community that don't abide by policy and law. But look, anybody that's looking to try to mirror what I'm doing, okay. Can you start a newspaper from scratch? You can. It has to be, you have to start off reasonably small, and then you can grow based on what you can do for distribution. There are actually franchises out there. I mean, there's people that sell the nickel and small local advertising oriented newspapers that don't necessarily have news in them, but it's not like, if you own the newspaper, you can write whatever you want. So there's options there, but Are you going to do a quarterly? Are you going to do a monthly? Are you going to do a newspaper every day? Do you have the kind of support? Look, printing isn't cheap. I spent way too much money to purchase this newspaper. I knew that, and it was like, well, if I'm willing to do it, in 5 years somebody will give me more money. That's what I'm hoping, and or at least maybe I get my money back. And in the meantime, I'm paying my daughter, who's spends all of her money for college classes. She's begging me for more, so the only way we can get more money is if I sell more advertising. And I can tell you that with the last issue, even though it really wasn't the kind of content that I traditionally publish, um, we weirdly got 17 new advertisers this month, and that's dramatic. I mean, we traditionally, if I can get 3 or 4 new advertisers a month, I'm patting myself on the back, because for every 2 or 3 that you get, you lose 1 or 2. They decide they don't need to advertise anymore, that or their campaign didn't work for them. So you're constantly fighting attrition, looking for new advertisers. I'm blessed there, though. Again, when making the decision to purchase this newspaper, I already knew that we had advertisers that had been advertising the paper for decades, literally 20 years. And it makes my job easier. I don't have to call them every month and say, "Hey, we're gonna go with the ad again this month." They're automatic, so I just bill them every month, and the checks come in. So, as a small business, I'm also here to support other small businesses in my community. They advertise in the newspaper, and they benefit from a readership that really, like I say, reads the paper from the front page to the back page, and keeps them busy. Yeah.
How many
Great
advertisers
stories.
do you have right now?
Um, I think, well, with the new advertisers, I think we're getting close to maybe 80, 85.
Mhm.
I don't believe it or not, I don't pay a lot of attention to the
Right.
number. My daughter's, she's again, she puts almost all these ads together for these customers. They'll send her a scribble and a logo, and she creates the ads. Um, she does a great job. She changes up all the information in the ads on a monthly basis, depending on who it is. And yeah, I mean, the advertising makes the paper. It makes the difference. If look, you can ask people to pay for a subscription. It's not much different than a podcast having a subscriber base, or going through Patreon, or any of those other formats. There's lots of ways that you can supplement your income when publishing. Um, Gratefully, like I said, I came into a business that was already heavily advertiser supported. I felt that I had the knowledge and the capability to increase those advertisers. Um, and we still have growth potential long term. I mean, I was kind of joking about not having anybody build 5,000 new homes, but the reality is just to the west of us, they're getting ready to put in a $2.6 billion development. And if that happens, they're in my area code or my zip code, and so they'll immediately get the paper delivered to them, and they're going to be adding $5 million in retail space. So that's a bunch of new customers that I can potentially go after. So, again, how do I pay for it? I squeak by every month, and I wish I could pay myself more. I wish I could pay my daughter more, but that's just long term. Now, the bad part about adding advertisers is you have to add content. So for every 6 or 7 new advertisers I have to add 2 more pages of content, because we don't want to but we don't want to publish just pages of advertisers. So puts a little more pressure on me, because I won't say I'm the sole writer. My wife does provide reviews, and one of the other advantages of owning a newspaper is, she wants to get her nails done. I say, okay, write a review and we'll write it off on the business. I mean, we can do that. That's legit business expense when you actually write a review about it. But she also gets her nails done, so not a bad thing there.
Mhm.
We'd like to start maybe reviewing Teslas, but we haven't got there yet. So well, a few more advertisers, and maybe we can start doing luxury travel and
Mhm.
look, you can write about anything you want, and as long as it's a legitimate business expense, go for it. Have a good time.
Mhm.
But right now, like I say, I go to the lounge and I'll have a cocktail, and some people like me, some people don't like me, uh, and that's just part of the news business. I don't print every letter to the editor, and
Mhm.
some of our community think that's wrong. And the reality is, though, is it's my newspaper. I'm responsible for the content. I'm responsible for what our readership reads, and uh, your viewpoints do direct what direction you go with the newspaper. You don't have to print every story, because not every story has value, not in my mind anyway. So
Mhm.
at least I get to make those decisions now with the newspaper. And 5 years from now, I have a 5 year business plan. 5 years from now, when I'm 67, almost 67, I hope to sell the paper and travel, have fun, do those things you do when you're an old man, and
Mhm.
go fishing.
Mhm.
But
Would
for now, I'm busy.
Would you say the paper right now at its current level, like, again, it's very, very family run. Like, would you say that you're able to give all the staff members and things like a livable salary?
No, no, we the previous paper was run by a mother and a son. When she sold the paper to me, she was 80 years old. She had bought it at 60 with her husband. She bought it at 60 with her husband, and her husband lived 1 year and then passed away.
Mm.
And here she was stuck with a newspaper that she didn't really, it wasn't her dream; it was her husband's dream.
Right.
And she managed to get her son to move down to Barefoot Bay, and the two of them ran the paper successfully for 20 years. They only had to, of course, pay for two people, and I'm here. I've got to pay my own salary. I got to help. I pay my wife got a full time job, so I don't. She doesn't live off of what I pay her. My two children are 18 and 19. They live at home rent free. They don't pay for food except for stuff they want to buy. So,
Right.
I get by paying them less than maybe what
Mhm.
somebody else would have to pay them. But I'm dad, and I
Yeah.
need them, and so we look. I mean, if I build the paper up to a 40, 50 page paper, right? That last issue had 28 pages. So
Mhm.
if I were to build the paper up to a 40 or 50 page paper, and it's coming out on a regular basis, or I should say we're holding that size over a period of time, everybody's going to get a raise. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I'm working on that, and begging my daughter not to quit.
Mhm. Yeah. I know there can also be tax advantages to having your kids work forever. Can't speak. I'm not CPA and things like that.
And I'm not either. But
Yeah.
but that's an important point to bring up, though, with regards to the fact this is a business.
Mhm.
I got to pay an accountant. I've got a lawyer on retainer. I got to, um, you know, look, taxes aren't too bad. At least here in Florida, and I think it may be nationwide. You don't have to pay sales tax on advertising. So
So where are
that's
that? Hmm.
well, I wasn't aware of that either until I bought a newspaper.
You learn a lot, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So advertiser, when they're spending $300 on an ad, it's just $300. I don't have to worry about charging them tax and then
Mhm.
paying taxes to the
Mhm.
government with regards to advertisers.
Mhm.
Um, we have regular business taxes that you have to take care of when you make a profit. One day I will make a profit, and and actually I'm teasing. The paper supports itself, and it supports us
That's
in our
huge.
current iteration.
Mhm.
Um, but expenses in Florida, like around the country, are going up. We're actually raising our ad rate with the next issue of the paper, we're going to go up another dollar. So
Mhm.
we currently charge $14 an inch, column inch, for
Mhm.
advertising. So anybody that wants to go through the paper and do the math, they can figure out how much money I make.
Mhm.
But we that's for black and white. We charge as in 25% upcharge for color.
Mhm.
So I'd say our average ad is probably maybe $175.
Mhm.
And we have had full page ads. That's a $1,200 ad.
Mhm.
So, uh, you know, again, filling those pages up with advertisers is how you pay the bills.
Mhm.
But you have expenses above and beyond just, how much I got to pay my daughter every month.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, what are
then,
we
of
looking
course,
at? Because you guys are choosing print. What are we looking at in terms of printing costs?
well, I mean, again, I'm not going to get into the
But
details.
right.
Okay. But we have a you'd call them a national printer, uh,
Mhm.
a big printer, and they print probably 200 different publications every month, everything from uh, sports sheets to the rusty nickel kind of advertisements. And then of course they also print big newspapers. I mean it's printed on one of those big presses that goes around and around and
Mhm.
around. Um, so you do have costs. Let me put it this way: printing a newspaper, I print 7,000 copies a month. Um, it's a lot less than what you think.
Mm.
Okay,
Mhm.
it's the printing cost was one of the things that actually made me smile. I suddenly thought to myself, geez, and it only cost me another $100 to print another 1,000 copies. So that's not bad. Cost me
Mm.
significantly more to add 4 pages or add 8 pages. But then again, it's definitely covered by advertising.
Mhm.
Um, you can print with color. You can print in black and white. The printer that we use, a lot of their stuff is black and white. There's no color in it at all. But of course, we're trying to make the paper attractive and interesting to the public. So we
Mhm.
definitely have a lot of color. Um, but those black and white ads, they get grouped onto a page with just black and white ads, and we're able to save money on plates, color plates, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So the publishing business again, I used to run fan clubs. We had a subscription based model. People would pay, this was back in the 80s, $10 a year for 6 copies of the official Star Trek fan club magazine. Um, we we had a lot of subscribers, and we signed up. Matter of fact, we signed up I think 25,000 subscribers in the first 3 months of our existence. And if you can go that route and you have somebody that's interested in paying for the information, it doesn't take a lot of subscribers to pay the bills. With our regards, we actually mail the newspaper, so we have, in addition to our printing costs, we do have uh, mailing costs. Um, you have to buy paper. You have to have computer programs. We use Macs. We received those Macs with the purchase of the business. I'd never worked on a Mac before in my life, uh, so I still mess up with Control and Command keys, but
Mhm.
I'm getting better after a couple of years.
Yeah.
Uh, but you have to take a lot of things into consideration. You can print a poetry book. You can self-publish that. You can sell it through Facebook. You can put it on Amazon. There's lots of ways for you to, you know, market that kind of a
Mhm.
book. Who say you couldn't get sponsorships, right? I mean, sponsors will
Mhm.
promote uh, uh, those things that they believe in. So,
Mhm.
sponsor is no different than an advertiser. It's just you know what you provide, and you could print a periodical of poetry. I'm sure it's still done in some cases, uh, but yeah, again, a
Mhm.
newspaper, not the smartest move, um,
Speaking of
but
poetry, there's like the Three
I'm
Penny
hoping.
Review. I know they're still printed.
Yeah.
I think it's like a newspaper format.
Mhm.
Do you? And you've already you're kind of tying this into poetry and things like that. Like, what are some
I'm
skills?
trying.
No, it's good. It's good. I
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I just I know your background, and so like I said, when you asked me to do the podcast, I'm like, okay, how does that relate to poetry? I'm not
Hmm.
sure. Um,
Like, do you see there being like some writing related skills, even just in terms of like the marketing of a book and things like that, that carry over to like newspaper and like back and forth and things like that? Like, what are some of the skills that you've learned from newspapers that you think could apply readily to just writing more generally?
that's a good question. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a writer director, and so I did a lot of creative writing back then. Uh, Reality comes home real quick when you realize that there's only 12 successful writer directors in history, kind of thing. So I wasn't lucky enough to be number 13. Um, you know, I'm able to be creative with my writing. I get to write about things that are of interest to me. Um, I put a byline on almost everything that I write because most of it's my opinion. Um, I write I write news as well, but again, we're if there's ever a murder in Barefoot Bay, it ends up on the front page, uh, and that's not a fun story to write either. But at least there that's news. So, um, uh, I mean, selling a newspaper again. I'm not really selling the newspaper. People either like what I write or they don't. Um, I've had I had one resident uh, ask me on Facebook to take their name off. Uh, they don't want the paper anymore. They don't like it. And I told her, I said, well, you don't pay for it. I just mail it to you. And I made a couple of suggestions. I said, there's liners for the bird cage. You can make pirate hats. I mean, roll them up tight and they make good fire starter. Uh, it's free. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but just throw it away. It's not treated any differently by the post office than any advertiser mailer. They stick it in the mailbox, and the customer, you know, gets to read it if they want or not. So, of
Do you just send it to everybody?
course, absolutely, everybody in my we're in the 32976
Hmm.
area code. Now I
Hmm.
I can I can pick and choose which routes within that area code that I want to have the papers delivered. I pay accordingly, um, but it's basically a bulk
Hmm.
mail
Hmm.
newspaper.
Hmm.
So yeah, I send it to everybody, and again, that's the way it's been done for 45 years. Uh, I might actually do well if I wanted to, ask for subscriptions, but at the same time, we don't want to kill the golden goose. Everybody's happy with the paper the
Hmm.
way it is. They look forward to it. I get a lot more people that praise me than ask me to take their name off the mailing list. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Gotcha. So you're just like constantly kind of like updating and see like when new addresses and things get added, you're just like, oh, we gotta.
well, no, 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 no. Like I say, it's bulk mail, so I don't need any addresses.
Oh,
I just let them know. They tell me
oh,
they
cool.
have
Okay,
500 homes in Route
got you.
14,
Okay.
and we supply enough
Hmm.
newspapers so that every mailbox would get
Hmm.
paper.
Hmm. Got you. Yeah. What would you say, like from a writing perspective? You've already touched on a lot of points, but just kind of have it in like a single segment. Like, what would you say are some of the benefits from a writing perspective that come with having your own newspaper?
Well, again, when you own the newspaper, you can write what you want to write about. You can write poetry. You can write investigative pieces. look, the First Amendment's a pretty cool thing. Um, we we're all everybody in America uh, is entitled to the First Amendment. So we're all press in essence. What we do with that is up to us. Whether we want to create a YouTube channel, expose corruption in government or by police officers or just in general. It's only the free press that holds people accountable. There's a lot of people that just don't understand what their rights are, and I'm blessed. I mean, again, I treat the Tattler as is the fan club, magazine for Barefoot Bay. Barefoot Bay is an incredible community. We have, like I say, a little over almost 5,000 homes. We have our own golf course. We have tennis courts. We have pickleball. We have horseshoes and bocce and shuffleboard. And we have our own little mini golf course. We have a fishing pier. We own 2 acres out on the Atlantic. So we can literally, it takes a little while to drive there where our community isn't attached to the ocean, but we own property there. It's a great community. Our property values, like a lot of property values in Florida, have literally doubled in the last 5 years. You can still find a manufactured home in our community for $100,000, but it may need work. And we recently had one sell for over $300,000, and that's a manufactured home in a community of other manufactured homes, or as some people like to say, it's just a trailer park. But it's not just a trailer park. They are trailers. I agree. That's officially that's what you would call them. But paying $300,000, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a manufactured home myself. Especially oftentimes that's on the golf course, and again, beautiful golf course. We have live entertainment in our community. It's easy for me to write about stuff for our community, and I think my best writing, if anybody wants to go down through the newspapers that we have on my website, my best writing, I believe, was my Meals on Wheels article. And I interviewed, a bunch of people in the community that actually volunteered for that program, as well as the folks that received the benefits from our Meals on Wheels program. And I'm not going to say it made me choke up, but nice writing, Rob. It was, like I say, one of my better pieces. And I mean, look, I don't have to worry about anybody judging my writing. I'm the only judge, and I can promise you, I've done edits right down to the very last second. Makes my daughter so incredibly unhappy. But I'm like, but I got to change that. It's got to be changed. And she's like, Dad, I uploaded those 2 days ago to the printer. I said, but it's Sunday. They're not going to see it until tomorrow. We can still do this. And we've done that. We've literally uploaded and with seconds left to make sure that whatever I want is in the paper. So hey, we've had a good time. I mean, I'll tell you what, the time has flown by. We bought this paper in July of 22. So we're a year and a half in almost, and it's gone by like that. And like I said, I mean, I'll be at the 5-year point before I know it, and I'll be like, who knows? Do I want to sell it now, or
what's another 5 years?
Well, 72.
I mean, but she stopped when she was 80. So I mean,
no, there's truth to that, but I don't have a 20-year plan. No. Again, I would love my kids to take the paper. Wouldn't any father, that builds up a business, wouldn't they like to have their family take over? And all my kids look at me like, you're out of your mind. I don't really have none of my kids are really creative writers. I have one of my sons is a is a rapper. Benjamin, the guy I'm trying to get into sales, he's into computer games and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And then my daughter is a digital artist, very, very talented digital artist.
Mhm.
And she, trust me when I tell you that putting a newspaper and ads together, not the best use of her talents, as she would tell me, but she's learning. She's learning a lot,
Mhm.
and as is my son. And
Mhm.
so they're learning the business, even though they can't imagine taking this thing over in 5 years. So,
Yeah. But skills that can translate to other areas. I mean, it's
oh yeah,
like,
no sales. Okay, look, sales. I made my entire living in sales. I never went to college. I made six figures often, and um, but all that experience led me.
mhm.
Well, maybe if I'd had an education, I wouldn't have bought the paper, but everything else has led me to this point. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, it's nice to have a positive influence on your community, and
Mhm.
the paper, I'd like to think, reflects the best of our community.
Mhm.
Even though the last article kind of not the kind of stuff I want to write. I don't want to be an
Right.
investigative journalist. I just want to have fun, talk about nice things, and you know, publish a paper.
Yeah. One of my last questions for you, because I know we're getting late. Would you ever consider adding like a creative writing component, like a periodical story or anything like that?
We've talked about that. Uh, how do I put this? The, when you're dealing with a newspaper, okay, you have to be able to fill your your content, um, and sometimes I'm scrambling, and I'll be the first to tell you I've actually used AI to write some stories for me. Um, I've had to edit them because I'm like, okay, this is good, but this sucks because this isn't right. And I know it's
Mhm.
right and not right. So
Mhm.
I've gone in and used that. One of the interesting things about the last paper was that I, I went to a board meeting and I needed to transcribe all the verbal comments that were at that meeting.
Mm. Mhm.
I found a program, $17, AI, did a fantastic job in less than a minute
Mhm.
translating 53 minutes of conversation. Again, I had to go through, edit, make sure that names were correct and things like that. But other than that, that provided me 8 pages of content without even trying. Um, so, adding a creative element, I was actually going to suggest that if you wanted to have a contest or something like that, I'll leave that
This
up
is
to you.
awesome.
But
Mhm.
um, I'll print the poll. Be happy to. I always
Mhm.
have room. I can always
Mhm.
print stuff.
That's what I
Don't
was saying.
always have all the room I want to have, and sometimes I have way too much. But honestly, Jeff, uh, it, you, even myself, I still do some creative writing on the side, but I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to have to come up with a chapter every month. Let me put
Mhm.
it to you that way.
No, but
And
it doesn't have to
so,
be you. It could be other
no, no, no.
people.
Well, but at the same time, I have to, as the publisher, printing the first one,
Mhm.
I have to know there's going to be a second one. So I would
Right.
almost have to have somebody provide like several months in a row so that I've
Mhm.
already got them and I can feel confident
Mhm.
about going that direction. Um, look, we've talked about adding a crossword puzzle, Sudoku,
Mhm.
a lot of these other
Right.
things that, again, why does a newspaper have a crossword puzzle? Well, it brings people in, right? Makes them want to,
Right.
you know,
Right.
pick up the paper.
Mhm.
So, uh, having creative things like that in the paper, yeah, it's absolutely something that's been done in the past and something that we can do in the future. I mean, we've had, columnists in past years. I haven't dealt with any of these folks that they would write comedy. They'd have little jokes, and that would get published occasionally. So, yeah, I mean, there's always room to publish creative
Mhm.
stuff in the paper. Again, I try to avoid the paper being boring. I think I showed you earlier that this was the original paper. I'm going to get it out of my well. I don't want to lose it there.
Yeah.
Oh, can't. It's hard to do. There we go. Let me
There you go.
back up.
Yeah.
So here, this was the original Tattler, and I mean, it looks the same. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the new paper, so it's a lot more a lot more interesting.
Right.
And
Right.
we try to make the paper more interesting than what it was, and we've succeeded at that. Our customers, because my customers actually are my advertisers. Don't forget that. My readers, they appreciate what we've done. We've gotten a lot of compliments on that last issue. Matter of fact, because of the story, and people aren't always aware of what's going on in their community, and I don't like talking about the bad stuff, so you won't hear about it necessarily. And like I said, unless there's a murder or something dramatic, it won't go in the paper. But we just trying to satisfy everybody, and it's not easy. So you satisfy yourself. And that's what I do on a consistent basis. I make sure I'm happy, and go with that.
Yeah. Cool. Rob, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I greatly appreciate you. Have lots of insights into an industry that I think a lot of people don't get to hear a lot about, at least not in a positive.
Well, I don't pay reporters. Okay. So, and I don't pay my columnists, and, I provide them an outlet for their information. They put their name in there. It does benefit them, but I don't pay them for that content. So likewise with any creative, the money's just not there to pay talent. I, like I said, send me something. I'll publish it in the paper, and that'll be a fun little trade off for the podcast and for your readers. And I can publish more than one too. So, if you want to send me several or whatever, I'll certainly look at that. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this morning, and I appreciate the fact that you wanted to talk to me. I think that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm in a great place, a lucky place. I live in a fantastic place. Barefoot Bay is awesome, and again, I'm the advocate. I want to make sure our property values stay up. That we, that look, if our property values were to plummet, I'd lose my business. I mean, reality is this is a place that people want to be, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm in a good place.
Cool. Rob, we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on your email because I'll be contacting you.
I will.
But I'll send you out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Rob, thank you again. Thanks to the Tattler for doing this. Congrats on the purchase, on 2 successful years. Here's to many more.
Thank you.
And cool. We'll see you all later. You guys take care. Take care, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Take care.